Scotland's mountains are indeed turning pink, but it's not just the mountains, it's not just the hillsides, it's throughout its woodlands, throughout its moorlands, gardens. Anywhere this pink plant can take root, it will and it will spread. This is known as rhododendron and it's a non-native invasive here in Scotland, and I've driven past this massive clump of rhododendron many times and I've said to myself, I've got to come here when it's flowering to cover this story properly, because although this is really quite striking and beautiful, this pink plant is actually really damaging to Scotland's ecosystems. So I'm just pulling in to meet Ian. It's the first time I've met him. I haven't spoken to him before. He's actually at the base. He lives at the base of the Rhodey Mountain. And look, you can see it all. You can see it all here and here. Morning. Nice to meet you, Ian. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
That's all right.
Do we know how long rhododendron has been in Scotland and who brought it here and why? I mean, it's a beautiful plant, isn't it? But
yeah, it looks beautiful-ish now, but yeah, it was originally taken in about 1760 and it was taken over by plant collectors as an ornamental plant, and then that was distributed around different estates, garden centres. Obviously, it looks beautiful when it's in flower, so a lot of people would have liked this long flowering plant. And then eventually estates started using it for ground cover for game birds, and then it just took off. Rhododendron ponticum is the one that we're concerned about, the invasive species.
yes,
There's lots and lots of species of rhododendron that do not cause a problem, that are planted in gardens, that don't seed like ponticum does, or doesn't sucker, which is the main issue with ponticum.
And is ponticum the only poisonous one?
No, I think a lot of the species, they have a self-defense mechanism in the leaves, so a lot of insects, animals will not eat it because it secretes a chemical within it.
It's a non-native, it's invasive,
Yep.
and you're saying it's poisonous too.
Yeah.
So for ecology and the wildlife,
it's not very good. Even like you'd think that all these wonderful blossoms would be great for insect life, but even the European honeybee, it's actually poisonous to them. So they can't even benefit from all this nectar. Luckily, the European honeybee recognises the poison within the blooms and doesn't actually feed on it. I think there's maybe one bumblebee species that can feed on it, but the vast majority, unfortunately not.
it almost looks as though it doesn't have a brilliant, well, maybe birds can nest in it.
Yeah, I think there's only one sort of species of bird in the UK that regularly nests in ponticum, so it's not even a great nesting habitat for them, unfortunately.
No, I'm giving it every chance it can have in order to be a.
Yeah.
Because it's here, it's everywhere, and like, you know, I always think, all right, so what are the benefits of it? But it just seems as though that there isn't. I mean, when you look across here, you've got is it an ancient oak woodland here?
Yeah, it's mostly oak on the other side, and it's just been all out competed, unfortunately, by the ponticum. The ponticum is changing the soil to more acidic. All the foliage cover is eliminating all the light, so there's very few young oaks coming through, and you can see that by the canopy. You can see the die-off in the oaks. You know, they're getting old, and unfortunately there's no real young or medium trees coming through to replace them once they die off while the ponticum's there. If the ponticum can be removed, then there will be regeneration, and hopefully it won't be too late for that woodland. So this is an area that we cleared probably 3 years ago, cut it all back. The rhododendron is so invasive it can sucker, so yeah, this is an area we're going to have to go back over and try and pull out some more roots, which we've done. As you can compare it to the side there, but we haven't quite got to, you can see how bad it was, you know.
Yeah, really, really bad. And in terms of removing it, you've got the conventional way, which is with glyphosate, which is a chemical, which you either spread on the leaves, right?
Or you drill into the root stem and you put a glyphosate plug in. They're quite expensive, but that's a safer way when you're dealing around water courses and that, because with glyphosate you have to have a minimum of 1 metre buffer zone. The way we like to do it is we tend to just cut the rhododendron back, we leave it about a year, starts putting up some new growth, it weakens the roots, and then we start winching it out. And then that seems to work quite well. But obviously on slopes like this, it gets a bit harder. This is an area where we've abseiled in. So obviously you've got the gorge here, and this was completely covered. So what we've had to do is we've had to abseil in, cut the rhododendron back, pull out what we can, and we're due to go back in again probably this year to abseil back in to tidy up all these little bits of regeneration of rhododendron that are here.
Yeah.
We can't chemically treat it because it's too close to the watercourse, so we just have to cut it back and pull out what we can and just keep doing that till we get on top of it.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a strategy in doing it here? Because obviously this is risky, this is hard, this is difficult.
Yeah, well, if we leave any of a rhododendron, it just becomes a seed bank for it to just regenerate again. An adult plant will produce 1 million seeds a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they will get to about 8 meters tall, you know, so it starts just to outcompete everything around it. So it just has to go. It's hard work, you know.
Do you ever feel like you're fighting a losing battle with this?
Yes and no. At the moment, there is only grants for designated woodlands and sites of special scientific interest, triple SIs. So any landowner or property owner, they have to pay for all this themselves. And when you're talking about large scale removal, like as you've seen on the hillside behind you, really funding needs to be put in place for that landowner to effectively remove that large bank of ponticum. Just leaving small pockets where you're eliminating this invasive species doesn't work when it's so widespread within Scotland. It really needs a joined up approach. More funding needs to be put in place for organisations like Forestry and Land Scotland to deal with it. Probably grants to incentivise landowners to deal with it.
That wasn't a roadie, was it?
Yeah, it was.
This was a roadie.
Yeah,
right
that
here.
was a roadie. Yep. Yeah. So you can see quite how thick that was.
Very thick stems, yeah. And it would have been obscuring a nice view.
Yeah, all this was completely covered. You couldn't see the pool at all.
No, no.
Yeah.
Do you go swimming down there?
Yeah. We do go in. It is nice. It is nice. A bit warmer. We need it a wee bit warmer than it is at the moment.
Can people come and stay here? Do you have like a lodge?
Yeah, so there's free lodges on the grounds that people can come and stay in. The business has been run since the late 1970s by various owners, and we've taken over about 11 years ago. And my wife manages it, and my family live here on the grounds and help take care of the grounds and the daily running of the place.
So if people want to come and stay, they can come and stay and try and pull out a bit of roadie?
Yeah, that would be helpful. We'll definitely point them in the right direction of which ones to pull out. That's not a problem.
What was this?
That was actually a redwood.
Yeah, I'm going to say it has to be, right?
Yeah, so that was, let's look, there's a roddy seeding.
Oh.
Just seeding.
There you go.
There you go, you've just done your bit.
Wow. I mean...
Yeah.
There you go. And now what? Eat it? No. So as for the big mountain up there, do you know if there's any management going on, and is it spreading? How have you seen it change up there?
Yeah, like over the last decade, it's definitely spreading. The only management that actively goes on is by SSE. So they're clearing below the power lines, but then that's only just flailing. It's not actually treating the roots itself, so it just comes back. So that's just an ongoing process. But really, from a management side of view, I don't think there's anything actively going on.
No, it doesn't look like it, does it?
No. And our Victorian edition, that's like gonorrhea, which is like giant rhubarb.
The Victorians just loved it, didn't they?
Yeah, this area here was all ponticum up to about 25 feet high. We've just finished clearing, pulling out all the roots, obviously with the digger and mechanical assistance, and we've removed most of the roots away, and we've burnt them already earlier this year. There's still quite a lot. We're moving our way up our boundary to continue clearing.
Yeah, you can just see it over the back there, just looking menacing.
Yeah, just on our boundary, then you've got that line of ponticum there.
Oh right, yeah, so I guess this is the other issue with it. Like you try your hardest, you're saying it's laborious, the digger's sinking.
Yep.
And then just a stone's throw away, you've got Ponticum, which is producing 1 million seeds a year.
Yeah.
And it could just all just come back in.
Yeah, it could. And this is where the joined up approach needs to happen. There's no point one person that has Ponticum clearing it. All the neighbours have to clear it as well. We have our landowners if you want to eliminate it from an area.
So this is Loch Lochy down here, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Loch Lochy.
It's got to be the best name out of all the lots.
Yeah, my wife, who's Canadian, calls it the laziest name loch ever.
This is the spot where you've been sending me the photos from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the past couple of weeks I've been WhatsApping Ian, and he's probably thought, who's this guy? Because I'm like, let me know when it's flowering. Is this the biggest patch of rhododendron in Scotland?
Well, I think someone would have to do some math on that. It's definitely everyone talks about, like, through the Great Glen, this is probably the worst patch of Ponticum on the Great Glen.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so noticeable. If the Caledonian cruiser's going up, they can spot it. You know, you're driving along the 82, you can see it. Yeah.
Can't quite see it from space though.
Probably not. No.
This is kind of a great example of, like, nothing can kind of live in there.
Yeah.
It's very dark.
Yeah.
That's very dark through there.
You just have to start cutting it and then working your way back to the big root section. And then once you get into there, then you can start winching it and pulling it out. But then that's a lot of springy timber to deal with.
Yeah.
It's not very easy to cut it with handsaws either. But yeah.
Good workout at least, right?
Yeah,
Keeps you
exactly.
fit.
We call it saw fit. So
Nice.
Yeah. But we do, every year we do have a group of friends that come and they help clear a section and cut it up, and then we cook them food and we can stay in the lodges afterwards, you know, and just... Yeah,
I mean, that's the other side of it as well, is like, yes, it's a problem we need to get hold of, but like, this is an opportunity for people to come together and like, actually do something which is good for their health and good for the health of the landscape too.
Yeah, exactly.
So just made it across the river here, and I've come into this oak woodland, and the rhodie is just everywhere here, just coming up everywhere. Kind of come to an even bigger wall of it here in this woodland, but it's obvious that the rhodie here is winning. I mean, if you look around at the trees, they're all the same age, the same structure, they're tall trees, but if you look down on the forest floor, all you can see is rhododendron. There is absolutely no hope for young native saplings coming up. Here, the rhodie is very much winning. You know, I think it's really admirable that people like Ian and all these community groups are working to try and get a handle on this. And, you know, really, we need that. We need these groups. We need people switched on and working to try and get rid of it. But there needs to be top-down support from governments which are actually empowering and enabling the removal of this plant, you know. And despite rhodie being a massive pain in the arse, if you've enjoyed learning about it in this video, then please leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to keep watching the channel, then please check out the video that's on the screen now. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Live curious.